And then about Gemara. Today's daf is daf Kuf Chavav. We're continuing to learn about a b'choir, entitlement of a double portion. And okay, top of the page, Kuf Chavav, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Asi. Okay, so we said a b'choir entitled to double, and we follow the Chachamim that say that only if it's muhzik, only if the father already had it in his possession, or if it's a shevach, or if it's an improvement that it's this item itself improves as if it was by itself, it's as if like a tree that became thicker. So therefore, that's considered muhzik, because the Torah says by a b'choir, b'chol asher yimotzeloi, that which is found in the father's estate. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Asi, b'choir shemicha. So what happens if the b'choir? Now we also said that if the heirs invest time and effort and money in improvement, then the b'choir is not entitled to double portion. It's only if it happens on its own. Says the Gemara, Rav Hunas and Rav Asi, if the b'choir says, okay, I don't want you to do any improvements, I want to split it right now, I don't want you to do any improvements. But they continued making improvements. His mecha is a valid mecha, as if it was already a proportion to him. It's as if he already got his share, and therefore he will be entitled in this case to get a double portion, because he told them not to proceed and invest effort of money. Omar Rabbi says, I'm grapes that saying they cut it down, was they seem olives and they cut down. So if the item itself hasn't changed, they were going to cut it down, and he told them not to. Let's split it first, and therefore he's entitled to double. But if they went ahead and they trampled on the grapes, in other words, they turned it into wine, they made a shinui because they changed the grapes into wine. Fall on top of the page. And we're saying over here is that a b'choir, if the heirs invested time and effort and improved whatever the father's assets are, the b'choir is not entitled for double. But if the b'choir says he's moichet, don't go ahead and put the effort in everything else, and then they didn't listen, he is entitled to double. However, says Rabban, but if they went ahead and they converted it into wine, they made a shinui. So they didn't listen to the brother, they got nothing. What's it in by a ganef? If you make a shinui, if you change the item from what you stole, shinui koine. Whatever you change belongs to you. So therefore, it's all they have to do is give him back whatever they stole. So he doesn't get double into that. In that, if they change it into wine, even though he protested. But Rabbi Yosef seems to agree. In their interest. To be a ganef, still doing the wrong thing. You're right. Every ganef would be smart. He would make a shinui, but. Still the wrong thing. Rabbi Yosef, however, says, Afilu drachim. He says, even if they treaded on it, it sounds like Rabbi Yosef is arguing, saying that even though they made a shinui, if the brother protested, the b'choir protested, he's entitled to his double. So you want to ask the question, this is a case of a ganef. It was grapes, and now it's wine, and he told them not to do it, and they didn't listen. So they're a ganef. So he answers, you misunderstood Rabbi Yosef. He's actually not arguing with Rabbah. He's focusing on a different point, and that is, that if the brothers didn't listen, and they turned it into wine, and then it spilled out, or they ruined it, they have to pay the losses, because now that they became like a ganef, they take over ownership, and if they cause a loss, they have to pay. That's what he's saying. Coldman, they didn't make any changes.
Shouldn't he get double because of kafel if they're a ganef?
Sorry, it's a gazlan. A ganef, if they do it clandestinely. Here they did it openly, brazenly. Yeah, a gazlan does not pay double. Good point. We'll see later in the Gemara, Rabbi says that it's talking about that they have to compensate their brother because he told them not to and they did it anyway. They have to compensate him for these grapes. What's the story? What's the Rabbi Chama that you're quoting? On the following. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda said, name of Shmuel. A b'choir and a pasha, there was two brothers. One was a b'choir and one was an ordinary brother. The father left behind grapes, and they went ahead and they cut them. Or zaysim, olives, and they cut them down. He's b'choir noitul pishnayim. The b'choir is entitled to double, right? Because that's what his entitlement is. This is an improvement, but there's no change here, so the b'choir gets double. And it's not really considered that they put money invested in. That's the natural process. Then it says here, afilu drachim. Even if they treaded on it, the b'choir is entitled to double. So the Gemara right away asks, before it was grapes, now it's wine. It's a shini. Why double? But this is Maruk made a statement. We're not talking about giving double. We're talking about that they have to pay. If they caused any damage to the grapes, they have to pay that. Okay, it says the Gemara. What happened to B'choy says, you know what, on this particular field, I'm foregoing my entitlement. I'll take the same amount that the same size of land that you will. Vit. That means he was Michael. He's forgone his entitlement. And the question is, how far do we take it? Do we say he's only forgone his entitlement on this particular field? Or do we say an entire Yerusha, that's it, he forgave, he was Michael his entitlement? Remember we said before, it's a matana. Loss says like Pishnaim, it says loss to give it like matana, and we cannot force someone to take a matana. And normally, if you have something, you can't just say I don't want it because it's yours. You have to be mafkrit or give it away to somebody. Here, it's you're giving me a gift. I didn't receive it yet. I have the right to say I'm not interested. I don't want it. So the Gemara, my vita. What exactly did he forego? Now, Papa only in that particular field. And Papi, his brother, in the name of Rabbi says, Vita b'chol hanachasim kula. Now, how can they both argue what Rabbi said? Sometimes we have that, and it could be Rabbi, because many times Rabbi in Shas says, Hodabei Rabbi Mai. Rabbi, the next morning came in and says, what I said yesterday, I revisited it and I think it differently. So it's possible that one of them heard it earlier, one of them heard it later. But in this Gemara here, actually neither of them heard it from Rabbi. It's how they interpreted a certain event in the Rabbi's psak, how they understood that psak, as we'll see. So what's going on here? What's machlekes? Why did you say? Why do I say you only meichel that particular field that's on the agenda? Because the b'chai does not have his entitlement yet until he actually receives it in his hand. So the rest of the state is like a dover shalom b'la olam. It's not in my head. I have no connection to it yet. So how can he be meichel it? Mashain Kane, if I'm talking about this particular field that we're focusing on, and I say I don't want it, that's what we're talking about. That's the only thing that I have a connection to. So I have a right to say I don't want this field. But the rest of the Yerusha, I haven't talked about. That has nothing to do with me. A B'chai does not have his entitlement yet. So therefore, our Papa says the only thing that you're Meichel is that particular field that we're discussing. What he has a connection to, he was Meichel. But the rest of the Yerusha, which we haven't discussed yet, which we haven't divided yet, it's not. I have no relationship to it yet, so I'm not. I have no. Yeah, just like here, you have to divide it. When you get what? Which is mine? What's your chelik? I don't have anything yet, especially if you hold Ein Brera. Rapapi mashmei de Rava, Rapapi, the name of Rava says, Vita b'chol chavskul. No, he's moichel everything. You know why? Because somebody holds yeshel b'chol k'nei chaluka. That the b'chol, before even they divided it, because why? Because the Torah says losses like pishnayim. The moment the father lost by a b'chol, you lost like pishnayim. The moment the father passes away is as if that moment he granted a matana to his son. So therefore, he already got it straight away. No, there's only about b'chol. Lost of the pishnayim. The rest is, it says, it's a Yerusha, as we'll see in the Orson. So now, how do we view the Pashut? When does he have a shaykhis to it? Straight away, or only when he receives it? We'll see. Once you've demonstrated that one part of the Yerusha you don't want, well, we said that means, unless he said otherwise, if you don't explicitly say otherwise, we say you meichel everything. This of Rapapi and Rapapa Rava never said so anything clearly. It's from an event that happened and how they interpreted what happened. There was this b'chai. The Azil, he went Zabin Nichse the day Ude Poshet. The b'chai, I guess he's a bit arrogant. He made an assumption that his brother completely relies on him. He took all the assets of his father and sold them all. So his two parts and his brother's share as well. And Ozil Zobenich said today, Uda Pashat, he sold the entire estate. Meanwhile, Ozil Yashme B'nei Pashat, it seemed that he did that because his brother wasn't alive anymore, so therefore he took the I guess he took the license to go ahead and sell the entire thing, and the Yisraelim of his brother came to the buyer and said, "Hey, we want the dates that was produced on our father's field, lemechel tamni, our share, mahanu lekuchas, from what you bought, because our father's share is not part of the deal. A third of the field still belongs to us. We want to have the produce, a third of the produce. Machanu, beat him up. The buyer hit him on the head. Now these are poor orphans. Their relatives stepped in and said to the buyer, "Loi you have the chutzpah to buy their field that they never sold you, and you're going to beat them up for asking what's theirs, what's rightfully theirs." Also, came it over for a psak. He said, "Loi klum." The sale is a meaningless sale. Now, how do we understand it's a meaningless sale? What exactly is meaningless? The question is, the entire sale is meaningless, or the part that you sold on behalf of the brother is meaningless? Mar Savar, one of them holds loy asa klum bepalga. One of them holds that he did that the chelik b'chayda he received straight away. That sale is good, but in his own chelik pashut, since he and his brother haven't divided it yet, he doesn't have a shaykhut to either. He has no right to sell it, which is your part. So therefore, what are you selling? So therefore, it probably means half. My half and my brother's half is not sold. That's one, and that would be a puppet. That's how he understood it. Why? However, because that's the only part that I have. Umar Saba, the other one holds Bikulu. Nothing was sold. Even the Yibchor part wasn't sold because you don't have a shaykhus to Yibchor. And this is Papa. Papa says the Bchor, you don't get Yibchor until you divide. Since they didn't divide it, you have nothing. There's no sale. That's how he understood Rava. And Papi says no. The Bchor part, he understood Rava that the Pashut part, yours and the other ones didn't sell. But the Bchor part, you did sell. You did sell. So therefore, he argues. Taita Torah agrees. Taisa says, and some other shayim, the Rosh, that the only machlek is here the Pashut part, your Pashut part, for sure you did sell. Because we had before already that you can say if you don't want the Pashut, you don't want the Pashut part you could sell. What we're saying here is when you say Palga is not sold, it's saying here is the half of your brother's not sold. But mine is sold because I have the Bchor. My Pashut for sure I can sell before even I have it in my hand. And my what do you call it? My Bchor part, according to the first view, is also sold. So what's Palga that isn't sold? The part of your brother. And Rav Papa said, no, nothing is sold because you don't have the Bchor part at all. Only your Pashut is sold, but your Bchor is not sold. Then Teish remains the question, and he's not very happy. So what's the chiddush? If all Rav is saying according to Rav Papa that the part that you sold of your brother is not sold, that's all he's saying here. What was it in Torah? Of course it wasn't sold. From the beginning, why would you think I have a right to sell my brother's share? Who am I to sell? The Chayre Rav is coming a chiddush and saying that not only your brother's share, but part of what you sold also is not sold. So therefore, Tzeisa says, even though I say this shot, I don't understand exactly what's going on in the Gemara here. What's Rav's chiddush? Anyway, so the machlek is regarding the Pashut part. If he already has a connection to it straight away, and they're only arguing about the Bchor part, well, the Rashbam says the Pashut part you don't have for sure because it wasn't divided yet. It's the Bchor part that we're arguing about. The Gemara continues. Sholchim Atam from Israel they sent a letter. Okay, so we have now an argument. A couple of papi. Israel said a Bchor before they divided the state has no connection to it, which is like a papa. Alma the Bchor has no share in it. However, the Hilchos are like a papi. Yesh l'bchor koyde chalukah. The halach is that a bchor already had. It says losel le'pishnayim. He has a chelik in it. So as the Rif and other Rishonim explain. So we have on the one hand a pasuk b'chol asher yimotzel loy that has to be already in the father's estate, and then you have losel le'pishnayim. You tell me that even though it wasn't divided, it's already his. So they make a difference between ro versus muhzik. You're not kind of below. We follow the Rabbanu. Chol asher yimotzel loy. It has to be in the father's control. Only then does B'chor get a chelik, a double portion. That's one thing. So that's coming to be Mamayit. Losses loy pishnayim comes to be marba something. If it's already in the father's estate, it's like a matana, as if already the B'chor received his second portion, the part that's called Matana. Not the part that's called Yerusha, the part that's called Matana. So the Pashat part is not yours until you divide it. The B'chor part is yours the moment the father passes away. Mazutra from the Rishba, Mazutra from the city of Rishba, Polag, he once they divided with his brothers, but Sana, the pulpler, there was a basket full of peppercorns. So he said, you know what? I don't need a double portion of that. Give me just my share. Bishava, he made it equal. Also, the comment about Abashi, then when it came to divide the rest of the state, the brothers who obviously were Tamil Chum as well, they said, hey, halacha papi, once you forgive one part, it's one thing if you quantify and you say, I'm only forgiving this part, nothing else. But he didn't say that. When we divide, the first thing we divided was the basket of peppercorns, because so easy, and you were Michael. So you Michael everything. They came from Rashi. Amalu, he said to them, you should have known better. You're mevatzed on everything. You're a Michael on the entire Yerusha. You don't get your double portions. The Mishnah continues. If somebody says, I remember we had before, Rabbi Yochanan Breaker said that that if you take you decide to give a Yerusha to someone, the Torah says you decide to give Yerusha to your daughter rather than to your sons. You can't do that. The Torah says you got to give it to your sons. We should talk one day about how do you overcome that and giving Yerusha to your daughters. Two different ways of doing it. We'll talk about another time. But Rabbi Yochanan Breaker says that. Excuse me. Rabbi says, but if you take someone that's entitled to Yerusha, you have 5 children, and you say to one of the children, I'm going to give you more than everybody else. As silly as that is, not silly, it's more than just silly. As cruel as that is, because other brothers will be jealous, you're allowed to do that. Because you gave it to someone that Torah already gave a chelik in Yerusha too, so I'm just expanding on it. That's and the Chum argue, which we'll learn in the mission a few blocks from now. Says this mission. If somebody says, Ish Pliny B'ni B'chayr, he says this person here is a B'chayr, Lo Yitl Pishnayim. I don't want him to get double. Everyone knows this is my son, the B'chayr. I don't want to have double. Or Ish Pliny B'ni Lo Yarshimachal. I don't want the Yashin at all. Lo Yamakum. You can't go against the Torah. He's the mashkas of the Torah. I told you before that you can add or diminish, but you can't cancel. You can't go against the Torah legislature. If somebody distributes his nechasim, it doesn't call Yerusha, it's like a matnas body. He's giving out gifts. Riba le'echad and miyad le'echad, he gave one more, he gave one less. V'hishra lehen as a b'chayr, and he said, you get equal. The vod of kayamin. In all of these things, his vod of kayamin. Why? Because it's a matana. A matana, you can do whatever you want. If he says, look, this is my last will and testament, and this is how I want to divide my estate. This is my inheritance. I want to bequeath. This is a bequest. Then you're going against the Torah. Okay, what about even if he used the word Yerusha, but Kosev he wrote Bein Betchila, Bein Be'emsa, Bein Be'seiv. Somewhere there he also used the words Matana and Vod of Kayam. Then his words are fulfilled. Says the Gemara. No, they can't openly go against that. The Gemara, Leima Masnis in the lake of Rabbi Yehuda. Our Mishnah seems to say that you cannot go against the Torah. Now we know we had already a few places in Shas where if you can make a Tanai b'mammon against the Torah. Torah says that you have to support your wife. She'er, ksus, you have to support your wife and provide food for her and clothing. What happened? You marry a woman, you say, I'm doing Amanas, I'm not going to give you a cent. So we had a machlekes and Meir. Rabbi Yehuda, if you can do that, by dover shebemamon tonight kaim. In other words, you're not going into Torah. She's meichel me, and you can do that. Or Rabbi Meir says you can't because the fact is it flies in the face of what the Torah says. So the our Mishnah seems to be saying you cannot go against the Torah even though it's dover shebemamon. Sounds like the following Rabbi Meir says the Gemara. So let's say our Mishnah is not for Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda, he said, but dover shebemamon tonight kaim. He says by dover shebemamon. Even though it's against the Torah, that's nice time. We'll have him getting a makkah there about Shemitah. You don't want Shemitah to be Meshamet. I don't want Shemitah to cancel our loan. Can you do that? The time we learned. Oh, Elisha, a man says to a woman, Hare at Mikadesh's Li, you're engaged to me, Amanas, on the condition, She'ein Lachala, you have no tightness to me, She'er Ksus Va'oina. Big machlek is a shaynim if Oina is included in that, if you can. Some of the shaynim say, Oina is not mammon. If we're going to talk about money, you can be Michael. Oina is not mammon. And if Oina is not a monetary thing, you can't, then your mammon is going against the Torah. So some of the Shainim delete that. Other Shainim say no, Oina is Hana, and she could be Michael the pleasure that comes from Oina, and therefore she can. Big Machel Shainim. Anyway, Amanash ein lechalaisha exus or oino not oino harezu mekadeshes. She is engaged with tonight, but male you can't make it tonight against the Torah, so we cancel the tonight. We on our own, and the marriage is a marriage, and he's bound to follow what the Torah says. However, Rabbi Yehuda says, but dovish moment tonight kayim. Rabbi Yehuda says, if it's a money thing, you can make conditions. You're not going against the Torah. I'm just saying the Torah is correct. I want you to be me personally. Especially if you hold that mechila is like a harei you had in Moradon, is kabalti. If mechila means not that you don't have to give it to me, it's as if I received it. I treat it as if I received it, and for sure you're not going against the Torah. So our Mishnah does not conform with Rabbi Yehuda. So no, I feel to him Rabbi Yehuda. I can say that our Mishnah follow Rabbi Yehuda. So how come by Yerusha you can't say whatever distribute it differently against the Torah? Hasam yoda v'kamachla. Over there, she knew exactly what she was getting into. You told her openly beforehand, I'm getting married to you, but I'm not going to give you a cent. Mashain came, so therefore she's openly Michael. However, over here, he wasn't Michael. In other words, over there, she got something in return. So her Michil is genuine. She got a marriage. She's so happy. We have a rule of Kedushin in so many places. Tovla Mesa Tandula Mesa Amauta. A woman wants to be married. So therefore, you know what? I'm prepared to forego this and this and this because I'm getting something in return. So the mechila is genuine. Over here, the father says to the mechila, you know what? I'm taking away your double portion. What did the son get in return for that? Nothing. So where's the mechila? He didn't say anything. I had such respect and reverence for his father that he didn't have the chutzpah to argue with his father. But the mechila is not genuine because what did he get for it? Nothing. If Omar Ish Pliny, if a person says this person if a guy says on his deathbed, I want you to know that this son is a b'chayr. So we'll see later if everyone thought that he's not a b'chayr, now suddenly he says b'chayr, what happens? But he said this person, my son, is a b'chayr. So it's my b'chayr. Then noitel pishnayim. Then he gets entitled to double. The father believed Yakir. The father believed to say, this is my son, he's my b'chayr. What happens? He says each plenty that person b'chayru doesn't say he's my b'chayr. He says he is, and everyone knows it's his son. He says he is the b'chayr, not my b'chayr, but the b'chayr. And you know Mishnah, he doesn't get double. Why not? Dilma buchadima kamer. He is the firstborn, but maybe meant from his mother. He doesn't say my b'chayr. He says a b'chayr or the b'chayr. So therefore, it doesn't become his. So therefore, we take it that we don't, and the b'chayr mother is not entitled to anything. In fact, we learned by mother's estate, the b'chayr does not get double, only in the father's estate. Says about it further. Somebody came for Rabbi Bachana. I know for a fact that this is a b'chayr. How do you know? Guy came and said, how do you know? Because his father used to call him. This is an aid, and they came in and said, I know for a fact that this boy here is a b'chayr. So Rabbi Bachana asked him, how do you know? He said, I once heard. I heard many times. His father used to call him Buchra Sichla, my B'chayr Danar. So therefore, I know he's a B'chayr. So he said back to him, Dilma Buchra Di'imu. The whole Buchra Di'ima, because maybe he's a B'chayr of his mother. How does it prove he's a B'chayr of his father? Because every B'chayr of the mother, and most Fusim take out the word Nami, Buchra Sichla Kari, he's called a foolish B'chayr. Why is he called a foolish B'chayr? Because he has to pay, what do you call it? He has to pay five shloim, and he doesn't get a double portion. So he loses on all sides. So they call him a narish b'chayr is someone that is a loser. He's a loser, because you have to pay the 5 shloim for this, and he doesn't get a double portion. So fakert, that would be a raya that he's definitely not the b'chayr of his father; he's the b'chayr of his mother. So you know that. But just the idea that we're saying before, it could be the b'chayr of the mother. Another person came for because I know for a fact you. How do you know? When it came to his father, he said, "Zilu legabe shichabri." I have a son called Shichabri. We actually had Bab Metzia. On the same person, we had a Metzia that Rab Chanina said, "I know why I lost my son. Shichat died." Because we cut down a fruit-bearing tree, Baltashchis, and even though Api Halacha in that particular case we're allowed to, That's why he's shot. It hurt my son. I lost my son. But this Luchet is not the same person. But it's an interesting name. He said, I lost Shikha. Here on the side, he says the name is Shivcha, the vase. The Bucher who, now this is very interesting. A Bchoid, a fascinating Gemara here. A Bchoid has certain powers, spiritual powers. And here we're talking about metaphysical powers. You know what the metaphysical power of a Bchoid is? The Bucher, Umasi Roike, his saliva is therapeutic. And you take it and you put it on somebody's eye or something, it's a cure. So therefore, the father said, "Take my son Shikha because he's a b'chayr and his saliva works." So he said to him, "So I knows this is the b'chayr of the father, maybe the b'chayr of the mother." But Dilma buchadimu gemiri. We have a tradition that buchra the abba masi roika buchadima le masi roika. Only the b'chayr of the father has this power, the capacity that the saliva is therapeutic, but not the father. Interesting, it says in the Gemara says in Barachas Gemidi that Mailim B'Kodesh Reim Meridin, and some of the Rishonim say whenever it says the word Gemidi, it's Halacha Moshe Sinai. So this thing here says Gemidi, that only a B'Ched has that, a B'Ched of the father has that power, because in Vaychi Reish is Oini, so it's more than just a description that Reish is only my first power, but rather there's something more given, transmitted to this son than anyone else. So how many of Chayim are we here? Me also. So you realize the powers we have?
Yeah, well, we do deserve double because our parents try all their techniques on us.
Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. It's amazing. We're 8 siblings playing hard and we all got together. We get together all the time. So once we had all the kids comparing notes about my father, and I'm listening to my brothers and my sisters, thinking to myself, are we talking about the same man? My father with me was a disciplinarian. By the time we got to the 5th foot already, well, whatever.
But I decided, can I stay up till 12? Can I go out till 12 o'clock? My younger brother,
Who turned out in better shape?
I don't know.
Anyway. Rabami says, Tumtum Shenichra, he says that we're talking about a B'chayr. The B'chayr was born as a Tumtum. The Tumtum is we couldn't tell. There was a skin growth over it that we couldn't tell whether it was a male or a female, right? All the genital parts were covered. So Tumtum Shenichra, later on in life, it ripped open and we realized he's Zachar, but he's a B'chayr. What happens? He's not entitled to B'chayr. Why not? The Amakra in the pasuk v'haya haben abchoyer l'snua. It says the haya. Haya means also from the birth. Ad sheyehei ben mishas haboy. The moment the kid was born, we already had to be evident, self-evident, the gender. Rab Nachman by Yitzchak, but Rab Nachman goes further. Now that we're talking about a tumtum, whether it's a tree like a b'chaya, and we learn from the word v'haya that has to be from birth onwards. Af en yanidik ben sayda. Neither can be accused this child of a ben sayda murder. It has to be a boy. Amakra ki yil ish ben sayda murder. Again, year from birth. Achi ben mishas havoya has to be from the beginning. Ameimar says af ena memayit chelik b'chayda. It's what do you call it? What do you call it? If let's say there's a b'chayr, and then there's 2 children. One was a pasha, and one was this tumtum. So you would think the b'chayr gets double portion, and then each one gets 1. No, when we talk about the b'chayr portion, the tumtum doesn't exist because the b'chayr says v'haya, it has to be from the beginning. So that at the beginning, this child, from his birth, wasn't recognized as a boy. So we assume there were 9 portions there. We assume there's only 2, a b'chayr and a pasha, as if there's 3 people. So we divide the 9 portions into 3 parts. The b'chayr will get 3 as a b'chayr, and now we have 6 parts left. Now, when it comes to 6 parts, we'll divide it. The pasha, now the tumtum comes into the picture on the scene, and you divide that amongst the 3. So, but the b'chayr portion is as if he's non-existent. So the b'chayr portion we look at as if there are only 2 brothers there, a b'chayr and a pasha, and the b'chayr gets his entitlement. And now when we come to divide the pasha part, as if he is there. Shenemar, it says v'yoldu loy bonim achi ben b'shas later. Has to be a ben from birth. Rav Shiz b'yamar, or it says af einu nimo lishmeina. What do you mean you get gemaled? Of course you get gemaled. If let's say it happened the second or third or fourth day. The Omakra says in the pasuk Isha kisazriya v'yoldu zacher uva yom hashmini yimo. Now what do we learn out from the pasuk about yom hashmini? Afilu b'Shabbos. So we're talking about Shabbos here. We're not talking about gemaled. Of course you get gemaled. We're talking about do you get gemaled on Shabbos? And a tumtum will not get gemaled on Shabbos. Achi hezocher mishas later. Just like what do you call it? Cesarean doesn't get a Shabbos, so too has to be mishas later a male. The Noid Yehuda writes, if I remember correctly, he brings from one of the Shainim that is talking about B'chal, nothing to do with Shabbos. Because nowhere does he want to say the word Shabbos. He said B'chal, a tumtum who was not born as a male, does not get gemalut. And this is the big question that's coming up now. People change their gender. Do they have to get gemalut if they become a male? So this now becomes very important. This machlek is Noid Yehuda and others, whether you mala if you weren't born in that gender. Not the truth of the matter, I haven't seen anyone bring that up, but I remember that Nabi Yehuda it would be mamash chayil. Now l'chayda, how do we talk about Shabbos? Nabi Yehuda seems to be right. It doesn't mention a word about Shabbos. So l'chayda, the reason is we're reading the wrong pasuk. Sorry. Say it again. Yeah, it sounds like. But it says not to. Maybe yeah, maybe no. Maybe yeah, maybe no. The reason why we say it's talking about Shabbos is because it's the wrong pasuk. If we're talking about Stam Gemalit, then why bring the pasuk Yom Hashmini? So you bring Avraham Avinu, where it talks about Milah. This pasuk Yom Hashmini, the halacha we learn from here is regarding Shabbos. That's what we asked. Why I say it again? The teacher that didn't know Yom Hashmini, I'd fill the Shabbos. So that's why the pashas we learned that stuff talking about Shabbos. You don't get Gemal on Shabbos. You're not allowed to get Gemal on Shabbos. But any other time you can. How do we learn? I mean, you raise a good point here. How do we learn that the pshat is that you don't have the din of 8, or you don't have to bechal Gemal at all? The din of Milah maybe doesn't exist, or not. I have to look again because I haven't seen it for years. I have to look again what the Yehuda says. But how we understand doesn't mean that you don't have to get malad. You can malad by day, by night. The laws of Milah don't apply at all, but you just have to malad, or there's no eat Milah at all. I'll see if I can look it up. Tell you tomorrow. I'll go stop here and tomorrow.